Alrighty, this is my dad's 2001 Audi A6. I believe it has a failing thermostat, so I'm tearing this down and going to replace that and a water pump at the same time. Now, this thing's kind of tricky to get to, and there's not much information online, so I thought I'd make a video explaining this. So the first thing I did is I jacked up each side, took the wheels off, and then took the wheel liners out. You have to take the wheel liners out to get to the back of the nuts holding on this bumper. I'll explain that in a sec. The bumper has bolts that run through on each side, so you basically just take the nuts off on the back of these. That's why you have to take the wheel off and the wheel liner. So basically, I did it one side at a time. Just jack it up, wheel off, wheel liner out, take the nuts off, put the wheel back on, set it back down, do the other side. And now it's just those three on each side, and then in the bumper, it's already off. But when it's on the car, you take the fog light cover off. It just lifts out really easy. I think there's like a little clip right here. And there's a bolt running up right here, and that comes into this crash bar support right here, and it's going to come from the bottom. So once that's out, you can pretty easily just wiggle it off. It's not too bad. Well, that, and you have to peel the little clips out here, but it's pretty intuitive. Then you're going to have two little plug-ins on each side. One's for the fog light, one's for the washer. And then the washer fluid, there's your other two plug-ins. The washer fluid is here, so make sure you have a bucket to catch that. Alrighty, next step is to remove the headlights. And these are just held in by three little bolts. Got one here, and then one down here. Now to get the one down here, this one's kind of tricky. I'd recommend doing something like this. It's a 3/8 ratchet into a 1/4 inch extension with this like low profile Torx bit. It's actually a little adapter with a Torx bit in it. And then you got to go through this hole right here and get down there. And if you leave your wheel well lining out, that can help you get your hand behind there and see what you're doing. And then once you wiggle that out, it's just this little guy right here. This is probably going to be stuck. I had to use some screwdrivers to get some leverage on it, but you just push on this and it should pop off. Alright, so our plan here is to take this radiator and the core support and just peel it all to the left. So we got to disconnect things over here, and we'll get to that. The first thing I noticed, starting from the top, was the hood latch. So this thing has got 4 bolts, so you can see the holes right here. I got 1, 2, and then the other side. And it just sits in here like this. And my original plan was to just slide it through here and then peel it back over there. But I did have to disconnect it. You can pretty much get everything out of here just with a screwdriver. Just because it wouldn't fit down through that hole. So yeah, let's pop that out and then on to the next. Alright, next thing, right next to the hood latch, we got this little air box. This sits like down in here. There's just 2 little screws, and once you take these out, you can take this front part off, and then you can just rip this thing out. It's really not connected to this. This is loose too, but that's not in the way, so it can stay. Also, side note, I did take this engine cover off. It's just 4 little screws. You turn them like a 1/4 turn, and they pop out. They're not actually screws. They're just things that hold it in there. Same on these. I think I have to take these off. I'll get to this. Alright, moving on down. Next thing we gotta do is remove these guys. Another one over there. They got these 4 Torx screws. There's a 4th one down here. You can just kind of see it. These are T45s. Then also this nut is a 10 mil. So a bit of a change of plan. Instead of going to the left, I'm just going to take it forward. That's because there's an AC line that runs along here. But there's also one that runs that way, and I really don't want to mess with the AC. So I disconnected this top radiator hose. That was kind of tough. Honestly, I had to hit it with a hammer from the other side just to get it off, because it's kind of like, after this many years of being stuck on there, it was on there pretty good. But I got that off. I was able to just kind of fold this back down once all the bolts were out of these guys. And I was resting on something, so the lines aren't actually under tension right now. It's just sitting on the ground, leaning against that. So the next thing we gotta do is get the serpentine belt off. That's the tensioner. The bolt is right here underneath. This is the tensioner. So you're gonna do is get like a bar on there, go clockwise. You're gonna take that tension off of there. So after we get that belt off, the next thing we want to do is take this pulley off. This guy sits right here. So basically it's just I put an Allen key in here. I think it was like a 3/8 one. It wasn't metric, which is weird.
And then I put another Allen key on. These are all 3 Allens. So I held this one in the middle and then just broke all these loose. And then it came, I got those screws out and then I just hit it with a rubber mallet till it came out. So I've done a couple of things since we took this off. One thing is I took the tensioner out, which is just one big Allen bolt. You just take that out and it comes right out. Next to taking the timing covers off, there's 3 parts of it. There's one here, and then one over here. So it's all just little clips. You get a screwdriver, kind of pop them off. They'll come right off. And I also took the fan off of the fan clutch. It's just 4 Allen keys again. Next, I'm going to take this guy off. Real quick, almost forgot to mention, I also disconnected this hose. I think it's like a PCV line. Connects right here. You just kind of pinch it, it'll come right off. So yeah, take that off. Alright, quick tip from the future here. So one thing is I forgot to mention about these plugs. You got to make sure you disconnect all of these before you tilt the bumper down. I popped them out of their little sockets first and then unplugged them. I felt like that made it a lot easier. Second is the fan's already off of here, but I'm having a lot of trouble disconnecting this part from here. So I would definitely soak this nut right here with some whatever anti-rust penetrant you want to use. Hopefully that'll make it come off a bit easier. So just got this guy off, so I thought I'd check in with you guys. Once you get the fan off, which I had to use this like 1¼ inch wrench, and then I had my dad take a big screwdriver and just hold in these holes. It is reverse thread, so to take it off, you're going to go clockwise. And then once you get that off, you can get access. Well, before you can get access to these are both 6mm Allens. This is a 6mm Allen, and then this guy's kind of hiding. This is a 5mm Allen up here. So these 4 bolts hold this on, and so once you take those off, this will come off, and they're kind of sneaky. So yeah, it took me a while to find all of them. So this is why I'm making this video, because there's not that many resources for this job on this car. Now that we've got this guy out of the way, next step was take the crank pulley off. I've actually already got it off here. It's just, I think it's like 8 Allen keys. It's these holes you see in here. Once you get those taken out, I just kind of knocked it around with the rubber hammer to kind of knock it loose, and I was able to pull it off. It might take a while, but just be careful with it. You don't want to damage it, but yeah, just kind of hit it around. I've seen some people use brass hammers because brass is smaller than the steel of the pulley. That works too. I just had a rubber one. I don't have a brass one. So whatever works just to get that guy off. Next, we're going to take this cover off. I think it's just these 2 right here. I'll tell you if it's different. But after that, we're pretty close to getting this out. Just a quick add-on. I did disconnect this little clamp right here. It's just one nut. Just to so I have some movement on these hoses here, because these are not moving very much. And just to slip that crank pulley out of there. Alrighty, our next step is to take the timing belt off. To do that, we have to release the tension. This is the tensioner. It's going to sit right here. You got to stick I think it's like an 8mm Allen key in here, remove the tension on the belt, and then you have to take the tensioner itself off, and that's just with this guy right here. Something that worries me is honestly, this tensioner is really old, and so this puts tension on this pulley. So I'm able to slide this back in here, but if you have a new tensioner, I'm not sure you'll be able to slide this back in here without, like, you'd have to take this off, put the pulley on, and then put that back in, I think, while that's compressed. But I'm not replacing that because we're trying to do this cheap, and we're not putting more money into this than we have to, which might come back to bite us in the ass, but we'll see. But yeah, because this tensioner is old, I'm able to just slide this back on there. But if you're putting in a new one, you might have to go a different route. And once you get the tensioner off, you can just kind of take the belt off. I used a paint marker and marked all these gears just to make sure they don't move. They seem to have a bit of resistance to them, so they're not just free spinning. But you know, like I said, trying to save money, so I didn't spend the money on a cam lock I'm going to use once. And now we got the water pump. You can see there's just a bunch of 10mm. Just got to go through, crack them all off. Right now it's just dripping. I'm letting it drip, just trying to not make a huge mess when I pull this out, but it probably will anyway. Once we're in there, that's the water pump pulley, and I'll find the thermostat, and we'll be on the back side of this job. So when you pull the water pump, just be prepared to make a mess, because even if you drain like here or just here, you're not. So because I drained it up here and not down, like there's this high point here, so it didn't get all the coolant out of here. So everything that was in the engine fell out of here instead of coming out of here, just because this is a high point, which
Really sucks. There's not much you can do about it. I think if you drained it at the bottom of the radiator, the vacuum would pull the rest of it out. But like I had a hell of a time getting the top off, and I had access to that, so that's why I didn't do the bottom. If you can get the bottom, that'd be a better way to go. But it is what it is. So yeah, there's the water pump. See if I can find a light. That's where the water pump went. That's the thermostat right there. You have to take this plastic piece off. There's just 2 bolts. You can see that there and there. There's another one right here. It kind of slides in between this guy right here. And then, so yeah, the thermostat's right here. I had to get a pair of pliers and pull this thing out. I put it back in just so you could see where it was sitting. But yeah, this will just, now it would come out, but it'll probably be pretty stuck in there pretty good. Alright, so it looks like the O-ring's on the outside, and that the O-ring seals with this plastic piece here. So I'm going to reinstall the new one like this, put the O-ring on the outside, and then seal that up, and then I got a new gasket for the water pump. I'm going to put all that in, close it back up, and then I guess put the timing belt back on. So here we are on the back side of the job. You can see the water pump pulley there, that's new. The thermostat you can't see obviously. I got the timing belt on. I did have to kind of rotate the crank and some of the pulleys just a little bit out of the paint marker and then kind of rotate it back in just to get the correct tension, because the tensioner's here, but because these gears are toothed, you have to kind of manipulate these to get the tension right on the other bits. So it's pretty tight. This side seems to be a little bit looser than that side, but like I said, the gears are toothed, so I don't think too much can happen. Probably should have replaced the tensioners, but I don't think, hopefully it won't backfire on us, but we'll see. If it does, I'll eat my words and I'll put a new engine in it. Now the back side of this job is fairly straightforward. It's just the opposite of the removal, so I'm probably not going to document too much of it. I will say, don't forget to put the shield back on. I don't think I mentioned removing it during the removal part of this, but this does have to come off. Then you want to put it back on with just these 2 10s here before the crank pulley goes on, because otherwise you're going to be like me and have to put the crank pulley on, then take it back off when you realize this has to go behind it.